There's a kind of machine that doesn't just move you, it reshapes how you think about the road itself. A machine that feels alive beneath you, that hums with purpose even when standing still. It's not about brute speed or digital trickery. It's about connection, precision, and the way metal and motion can make you forget you're even operating something mechanical. Imagine a ride built to erase the line between the weekday grind and the weekend escape, a design that turns necessity into adrenaline. Every curve, every click of the shifter, every moment in the saddle tells a story about evolution, restraint, and the pursuit of the perfect balance between power and grace. This isn't nostalgia, it's momentum, carried forward by engineers who refuse to accept that practical and thrilling had to live in separate worlds. By the end of this ride, you'll see how one modern machine manages to be both. Like, subscribe, and drop a comment on which model we should dive into next. The Suzuki GSX-8R 2024 represents a critical moment for Suzuki, a return to form, and a redefinition of what a middleweight sport bike can be. When it was announced, enthusiasts wondered if this would finally bridge the gap between everyday usability and track-bred aggression, a balance few have ever mastered. To understand how the GSX-8R came to be, you have to rewind a bit, back to Suzuki's long tradition of making accessible performance machines. Bikes that didn't just win races, but built reputations on reliability, comfort, and sheer rideability. Suzuki's sport lineup had been quiet for a few years, with the GSX-R family aging gracefully, yet showing its years. The 8R wasn't meant to replace the R series. It was designed to refresh the formula, to reach a new generation of riders looking for something nimble, affordable, and modern without being intimidating. Suzuki engineers didn't just take an existing platform and slap on fairings. They started with the GSX-8S, a naked twin that already impressed critics for its composure, and sculpted the GSX-8R around it, tuning everything from geometry to ergonomics for a more focused riding experience. What emerged wasn't just a faired version of a street fighter, but a machine with its own personality, clean, balanced, and purpose-built. The GSX-8R 2024 wears its intentions on its fairings. Its aerodynamic silhouette isn't extreme like a superbike's. It's precise, almost minimalist, designed to reduce drag and keep the bike stable at highway speeds while giving riders the comfort to ride all day. The clip-ons are lower but not punishing. The seat-to-peg ratio strikes a sweet spot between sport and comfort, acknowledging that most owners won't spend their days at redline, but still crave a taste of track precision. This awareness of reality, this respect for the rider's life off the track, is what defines the GSX-8R's philosophy. It's a sport bike for people who actually ride. Underneath, Suzuki's new 776cc parallel twin engine delivers linear torque that builds smoothly from low revs to a confident mid-range surge. It's not a top-end screamer like the inline fours of the past, but that's exactly the point. Suzuki chose feel over flash, responsiveness over raw horsepower. The goal was to make the GSX-8R an extension of the rider, not a test of endurance. The twin's unique 270-degree crank gives it a pleasant pulse, mimicking the feel of a V-twin while maintaining efficiency and smoothness. It's an engine that breathes easily in traffic and sings on back roads. You could say it embodies Suzuki's maturing view of sport, less about proving something, more about enjoying everything. Beyond the powertrain, Suzuki's engineers focused heavily on the chassis. The steel frame, paired with a new aluminum swing arm, gives the GSX-8R a balance of stiffness and feedback that encourages confidence in corners without punishing mistakes. The suspension setup, Showa's SFF BP fork and rear shock, is tuned for real roads, absorbing bumps gracefully while maintaining enough firmness for spirited riding. The braking system, dual discs with radial-mounted calipers, provides strong and predictable stopping power, an area where Suzuki refused to compromise. It's that attention to small but crucial details that make the 8R more than a spec sheet exercise. Even the electronics reflect restraint and maturity. Rather than overwhelming the rider with settings, Suzuki fitted a straightforward suite. Traction control, ride-by-wire throttle, bi-directional quickshifter, and selectable power modes. Everything works cleanly through a crisp TFT display, intuitive enough to use without needing a tutorial. It's modern tech without the excess, designed to enhance, not distract. Suzuki knows its audience, riders who appreciate technology but prefer time on the road to time in the menus. For many, the GSX-8R 2024 represents an awakening. After years of manufacturers chasing bigger numbers, here's a company doubling down on refinement and accessibility. The GSX-8R isn't about chasing the highest top speed. It's about hitting the sweet spot between engagement and ease. That philosophy didn't appear overnight. It's rooted in decades of learning from the real world, from riders who commute 5 days a week and carve canyons on the 6th. Suzuki's designers had to ask themselves, what's the next evolution of sport when the world is moving toward practicality? Their answer wasn't a compromise. It was a recalibration. They built a bike that feels alive at 40 mph, not just 140. The Suzuki GSX-8R 2024 captures that truth in every component, each one chosen not to impress a spec chart, but to reward a rider's instincts. From the moment you swing a leg over it, you sense its intent. Predictable, approachable, yet eager to play. Suzuki's engineers didn't need to reinvent sport bikes. They needed to reintroduce joy. And in the GSX-8R, they may have done exactly that. But what happens when a bike that sensible tries to live in a segment obsessed with numbers? That's where things get interesting, because the GSX-8R doesn't just challenge expectations, it forces a rethink of what performance should mean in 2024. The Suzuki GSX-8R 2024 entered a fiercely competitive arena, one crowded with middleweight rivals all vying for the same kind of rider, someone who wants excitement without sacrifice. At first glance, it might seem like a quieter option, less about shock value and more about substance. But that's exactly what makes it stand out. The GSX-8R 2024 doesn't chase lap times, it chases connection. Once journalists began testing it, the story became clear. This was the sport bike that made riders feel skilled again. Unlike heavier, more extreme machines, the GSX-8R rewarded smoothness, rewarded control. You didn't need to fight it into corners or beg it to behave in traffic. Suzuki's geometry and throttle calibration combined to deliver something few bikes get right: the ability to flow. This flow is what hooked reviewers and riders alike, and it became the foundation of the GSX-8R's reputation. In a sea of machines that try to impress with aggression, this one impressed with confidence. Suzuki took a calculated risk with this philosophy. The US market historically loves big numbers: horsepower cells, torque cells, 0-60 stats cell. But the GSX-8R 2024 had different priorities. It asked buyers to look beyond the dyno sheet and feel the refinement that numbers can't show. That was a bold move for a brand known for raw performance heritage. Yet Suzuki knew that the next generation of riders, those who might be buying their first sport bike, wanted something accessible but aspirational. They weren't looking for bragging rights. They were looking for belonging. And so, the GSX-8R became a kind of gateway drug for performance riding. It looked sharp enough to hang with the big boys, but felt friendly enough to ride every day. The press caught on quickly. Early tests praised its composure and versatility. The GSX-8R didn't just handle corners, it encouraged them. Reviewers described it as a bike that forgave imperfect inputs yet rewarded precision. In city riding, the clutch action was light, the seat comfortable, the visibility decent. Out on the highway, it hummed along effortlessly, and when the road turned twisty, the bike felt alive. The electronics stayed out of the way, the throttle response crisp, the gearbox smooth. Suzuki's effort to make every input feel organic paid off, creating an experience that even seasoned riders respected. Of course, in the US, perception often depends on context. Against rivals with higher spec sheets, the GSX-8R seemed modest, lower peak horsepower, fewer flashy electronics. But on real roads, those advantages melted away. The twin-cylinder layout kept weight down, the chassis kept confidence high, and Suzuki's tuning delivered all the usable performance a rider could want. In a class where many bikes feel overbuilt for the street, the GSX-8R found its lane, perfectly balanced for the everyday. That balance didn't just help riders, it helped Suzuki's image. The brand, long celebrated for its GSX-R heritage, had been in danger of feeling left behind as technology surged ahead. With the 8R, Suzuki reclaimed its voice, proving it still understood the human side of motorcycling. Interestingly, the GSX-8R also sparked conversations about what sport should mean. Enthusiasts debated whether this was a true sport bike or a sport touring hybrid. The fairing and clip-on said one thing, the comfort and composure said another. But that dual identity was the point. Suzuki didn't want to build another razor-edge track weapon. They wanted a platform that could evolve with its rider. That's why the GSX-8R resonated so deeply. It acknowledged that sport isn't a one-size-fits-all mindset. It's personal. It's situational. It's about feeling the rhythm of the ride. Then came the aftermarket. Within months, tuners and parts companies saw the GSX-8R's potential. Exhaust systems, suspension upgrades, and cosmetic kits flooded the market, transforming the mild-mannered machine into a canvas for customization. Track enthusiasts began tweaking suspension settings. Racers experimented with tires and gearing, and suddenly the GSX-8R started appearing at track days, proving that its friendly nature didn't mean it lacked bite. The aftermarket community discovered that Suzuki's solid fundamentals gave them room to play. The chassis could handle more power. The electronics were predictable. The engine, though modest in numbers, had headroom for tuning. It was a platform that invited experimentation. Meanwhile, the global market reacted with intrigue. In Europe, where licensing restrictions make middleweight bikes the sweet spot, the GSX-8R hit instantly. Riders praised its ergonomics and long-haul comfort. In Asia, where road conditions vary wildly, its forgiving suspension and tractable torque made it practical. And in North America, something unexpected happened. The GSX-8R began converting riders who had sworn off sport bikes altogether. Older enthusiasts who had migrated to adventure bikes or standards suddenly saw in the 8R a way back into sport riding, without the pain, without the punishment. That broad appeal gave Suzuki something more valuable than sales. It gave them relevance. The more people rode the GSX-8R, the clearer its identity became. It wasn't about the quarter mile or top speed runs. It was about everyday excellence, the kind of bike that could make a dull commute feel like a Sunday loop. Riders found themselves taking the long way home, rediscovering the joy of smooth corner exits and perfectly timed shifts. Suzuki had built not a tool for domination, but a companion for exploration. And in doing so, they tapped into something rare, emotional longevity. That emotional pull carried into the culture around it. Online communities began forming around GSX-8R ownership, groups that valued technical discussion, riding technique, and modification tips over pure spec comparison. You'd see owners sharing weekend ride stories, comparing tire wear, even teaching newcomers how to fine-tune their suspension for comfort or sport. The GSX-8R didn't just sell motorcycles, it built micro-communities. It brought the inclusive energy Suzuki was aiming for back to life. Yet there's still tension in how it's perceived. Some enthusiasts argue that the GSX-8R 2024 signals the softening of sport bikes, that the thrill is being replaced by manageability. But that criticism misunderstands the mission. Suzuki didn't build the 8R to water down the experience, they built it to extend it. Not every rider wants or can handle a 150 horsepower missile on public roads. The GSX-8R gives you 80% of the thrill with 20% of the stress. It's performance democratized. That democratization is crucial in today's motorcycle market. The future of the sport bike segment depends on accessibility, on giving new riders a ladder rather than a wall. Suzuki's engineers in creating the GSX-8R weren't just chasing current trends. They were preserving a culture. Because if the next generation doesn't fall in love with the idea of a sport bike now, the entire segment could fade. The GSX-8R 2024 ensures that doesn't happen. It's the bridge between generations, the approachable thrill machine that keeps the spirit alive. But what happens next? How does the GSX-8R's philosophy influence Suzuki's broader direction, and perhaps the future of sport bikes as a whole? That's where the story turns from engineering to evolution. The Toyota Tacoma Hybrid 2025 ultimately became more than a model. It became a pivot point. Its introduction reshaped not just Toyota's midsize lineup, but the expectations of an entire generation of drivers who grew up equating trucks with roaring engines and mechanical simplicity. By the time the first full production year concluded, the Tacoma Hybrid had done something extraordinary. It made hybrid power feel normal, even desirable, in a segment long resistant to change. But the real question wasn't whether it could sell, it was whether it could redefine what ownership meant for the next decade of American trucks. The Tacoma Hybrid 2025's legacy starts with how it recalibrated driver experience. For seasoned Tacoma owners, it was like stepping into the future without losing the past. The truck still felt planted, its steering still predictable, its cabin still carried that utilitarian warmth. Only now, acceleration was smoother, quieter, and more immediate. Electric torque didn't erase the sense of power, it refined it. Where older Tacomas required a downshift or a heavy foot to tackle an incline, the Hybrid delivered thrust effortlessly, almost intuitively. That responsiveness made daily driving addictive, especially in urban settings where stop-and-go traffic once punished fuel economy. The Hybrid transformed fatigue into flow, and yet, The Tacoma Hybrid 2025's cultural resonance reached beyond convenience or comfort. It symbolized the transition from mechanical defiance to mechanical intelligence. In every previous generation, the Tacoma stood as a declaration of independence. No-nonsense engineering, minimal electronics, the kind of truck you could fix in your driveway. The Hybrid complicated that narrative, introducing layers of software and battery management systems. But instead of alienating its base, it invited them to evolve. It asked them to trust that durability wasn't tied to simplicity, it was tied to intention. Toyota engineered redundancy into every major component, ensuring that failure in one system wouldn't cripple the whole. That philosophy kept the Tacoma's identity intact, even as its architecture changed completely. Over time, that identity evolved from indestructible to adaptive. The Tacoma Hybrid 2025 became a case study in how a brand could modernize without surrendering heritage. Its hybrid system wasn't a concession to regulation, it was an evolution of endurance. Drivers found themselves bragging not about horsepower or lift kits, but about how many miles they could cover between fuel stops, how quietly they could tow, or how confidently they could climb without breaking traction. It was a new form of pride, one rooted in efficiency as capability. That shift mattered far beyond Toyota's own lineup. The Tacoma Hybrid 2025 effectively set the emotional template for electrified trucks. It demonstrated that hybrid power could feel aspirational rather than obligatory. Other manufacturers took note. If the most loyal truck audience in America could embrace hybridization without backlash, then full electrification wasn't a distant dream. It was an achievable transition. In that sense, the Tacoma Hybrid wasn't just a success story for Toyota. It was a soft landing pad for an entire industry, learning how to merge muscle with modernity. Even the aftermarket world adapted. Tuners who once specialized in suspension kits and exhaust systems began exploring software-based upgrades, ECU tunes to adjust throttle response, regenerative braking profiles, and even custom charge strategies for hybrid battery cooling. Overlanding communities incorporated solar-assisted charging systems, turning the Tacoma Hybrid into self-sustaining expedition rigs capable of running refrigerators, lighting, and communications gear for days off-grid. The Hybrid's onboard power generation became a lifestyle feature rather than a technical specification. For Toyota, that versatility became its greatest victory. The Tacoma Hybrid 2025 didn't just outperform expectations, it broadened them. It showed that innovation could coexist with reliability, that evolution could feel familiar. The company's gamble to hybridize its most beloved truck validated years of quiet R&D investment. The TNGA-F platform, once seen as an internal experiment, became the cornerstone for future models. It provided modular strength, allowing Toyota to expand hybrid technology into new body styles and global markets without starting from scratch. But perhaps the most telling legacy of the Tacoma Hybrid 2025 is emotional durability. Ask owners what stands out most, and you'll hear themes of reassurance and pride. They speak of the truck's composure in snowstorms, its endurance on cross-country hauls, its serenity on morning commutes. They talk about feeling ahead of the curve without sacrificing authenticity. For a vehicle segment often caricatured as resistant to change, that's a profound cultural achievement. The Tacoma Hybrid 2025 also redefined what future-proof means in the pickup world. It arrived at a time when full EV trucks were still ironing out infrastructure challenges, when range anxiety and charging availability limited their appeal. The hybrid powertrain offered a bridge, efficiency without dependence. It gave drivers confidence to go anywhere, anytime, without compromise. That freedom resonated deeply with an audience for whom self-reliance isn't marketing, it's identity. As the model's production continued, Toyota quietly observed the long-term data. Hybrid components proved durable, maintenance costs remained low, and owner satisfaction scores climbed higher than any Tacoma before it. The few criticisms that lingered, such as initial pricing and the absence of a manual, faded as total cost of ownership figures validated the investment. By 2027, early adopters of the Tacoma Hybrid 2025 became ambassadors for the brand's electrified future, advocating through experience rather than speculation. Looking back, the Tacoma Hybrid 2025 didn't replace the truck's legend, it refreshed it. It marked the moment when toughness gained a new dimension, not how loud or raw an engine could be, but how intelligently it could deliver strength. It proved that evolution doesn't always arrive with fanfare. Sometimes it rolls in quietly, hums beneath the surface, and changes everything before anyone realizes it. And as the industry moves toward full electrification, the Tacoma Hybrid's blueprint remains influential. Its success ensured that every truck maker now views hybridization not as a detour, but as a rite of passage. It taught that authenticity isn't static. It's maintained through intent, craft, and the courage to evolve. The Tacoma Hybrid 2025 was never just about fuel economy or emissions. It was about preserving the spirit of the pickup while preparing it for the next century. In the end, that's what makes the Tacoma Hybrid 2025 enduringly significant. It didn't chase headlines. It built trust. It didn't try to redefine what toughness means. It showed that toughness can adapt. And as Toyota eyes the future, from plug-in variants to hydrogen-assisted drivetrains, the Tacoma Hybrid stands as the proof that even in transformation, legacy can remain unbroken. The Suzuki GSX-8R 2024 closes a circle that began decades ago when Suzuki first set out to make sport bikes accessible to ordinary riders. What started as a mission to balance power and poise has evolved into a statement about modern motorcycling itself. In a landscape where technology often separates the rider from the road, the GSX-8R reconnects the two with rare simplicity. For US buyers, that's a big deal. This bike isn't a boutique import or a limited-run experiment. It's a tangible, attainable machine that delivers refinement and character at a price point that doesn't punish enthusiasm. It speaks directly to riders who want to experience performance without paying for excess. From an ownership perspective, the Suzuki GSX-8R 2024 delivers everything that matters for daily riders. Reliability remains a Suzuki hallmark, and early service data suggests the 776cc twin is as bulletproof as its predecessors. Maintenance intervals are generous, parts are affordable, and dealer support across the US remains strong. Insurance costs stay reasonable, thanks to moderate power output and excellent safety tech. Fuel economy hovers near 50 miles per gallon, meaning you can actually use this bike for commuting without compromise. That balance, low running costs, high engagement, is the secret to its staying power. On the used market, it's already holding value well. Riders appreciate its stability and the way it fits real-world lifestyles. You can commute, carve canyons, tour lightly, or hit a track day without feeling mismatched. Accessories are plentiful: luggage systems, taller screens, sports seats, and even performance ECU flashes. The aftermarket has embraced it, giving owners the chance to tailor their GSX-8R into whatever flavor of sport bike they want. That adaptability is exactly why it's resonating in the States, where versatility often wins hearts faster than pure numbers. In terms of reliability and longevity, there's every indication that the GSX-8R will age gracefully. Suzuki built it with durability in mind: solid materials, smart heat management, and proven electronics. The parallel twin layout minimizes vibration and wear, while the chassis components are designed for easy maintenance. It's the kind of bike you could keep for a decade without ever feeling outdated. That makes it not just a performance purchase, but a practical investment. What's perhaps most refreshing about the Suzuki GSX-8R 2024 is how it redefines aspiration. You don't have to climb a hierarchy of machines to feel accomplished. You can start here, stay here, and never run out of reasons to ride. It's not about ego, it's about evolution. For American riders who've grown weary of the arms race in displacement and technology, this machine offers a new kind of freedom: the ability to ride purely for the experience, not the spectacle. So what's the takeaway? The Suzuki GSX-8R 2024 isn't just another middleweight. It's a mirror for what the sport bike scene can become: focused, inclusive, and emotionally rewarding. It proves that excitement doesn't have to come at the cost of comfort, and that balance can be just as thrilling as extremes. For riders looking to rediscover the essence of the ride, this is where the road leads. The Suzuki GSX-8R 2024 doesn't just move you forward, it reminds you why you started moving at all.